Shalini and I were first talking about this, we had this idea of, well, why don't we do a fireside chat and let's keep it simple. Let's keep it the two of us. And then as we were preparing, we realized we're basically having a very public conversation. So we were talking about what would you all be interested in. So we ended up spending some time thinking through what are those moments in our careers that could have gone either way, maybe some opportunities or obstacles that really shaped who we are as leaders.
And honestly, it's those moments that really shape partnership, trust, leadership, and that's really what connects all of us. So yeah, this is what we do every day. So should we get started?
Let's jump right in.
Okay. So Yasmine, let's start where this shows up quite clearly. Can you please share with us, with the audience, the moment where a systems first mindset changed a decision or trajectory for you?
So I'll go back to the beginning when I first moved into this role as automotive business unit leader. I intentionally spent a lot of time listening. I went on the road. I was meeting with a lot of different customers, meeting with a lot of different partners, and it was across a very wide set of geographies, different architectures, different points in this transition as the industry is trying to move towards a software-defined vehicle future. What was amazing to me is in all of these conversations, I kept hearing the same question come up over and over again. And it was around how do we actually integrate across compute and sensing and connectivity and safety, while at the same time trying to move faster in an industry where the ecosystem pieces may not have been designed to work together. And what struck me was that every company I spoke with was trying to solve this independently. And when you're trying to solve a problem that has some level of interoperability mixed in, if you're doing that in isolation, the entire industry moves slower. And that realization struck me and really grounded how I think as an automotive business unit leader. It influenced my decision to invest in open ecosystems, to invest in shared collaborations like OpenGMSL, and it really has influenced how I approach our partnerships at a bigger level. Because when I see architectures and incentives aligned, we can all move faster and innovation will scale more rapidly. But I'm sure, Shalini, you have very similar, you're out with customers all the time. And so I'm curious from your perspective, what's a moment where a new role or an industry or a customer encouraged you to lead differently?
Thank you, Yasmin. So I think one of the biggest shifts for me was when I moved from a multi-industry area into automotive. And actually, there were many things there were parallels in terms of how you work with customers. But one of the biggest shifts were the pace, the complexity, and just the diversity of what's going on from one region to another. And I do have one of the best jobs, I think, in the world. I have a chance to meet with OEMs, tier ones, partners, all around the world. And things are moving fast. There's so much change with electrification, software-defined vehicles. We're talking about AI, and what customers want even tomorrow is different from today, and that's changing, and that's forcing us to think differently about how we work with customers, how we align. Alignment is really important. The skills, and Tracy mentioned it earlier, it's thinking also about what is required in the future. So I'm having to think differently about what do we need in the team? We need to be global, but we also need to be very local in the way that we approach our partnerships. And ultimately, right, success in this environment does depend very much on alignment across teams, internally, externally, with our partners. It's not a nice to have anymore. It's absolutely an essential leadership requirement. Without that partnership, it's very difficult for us to be able to move with agility and speed, really. So, which brings me to a question for you.
One quick comment before you jump to the next question. I think what stands out to me on that is sometimes it's counterintuitive, right? You mentioned how partnership allows you to move faster. And I'm sure we've all faced that situation where we're working within our companies and we're trying to align across stakeholders and we think, oh my gosh, I have to go talk to 5 more people before I can actually take this thing forward. So it feels like it slows us down, but actually that work up front on alignment really allows you to move faster later in the program. So I think that's a really good point, Shalini.
Thank you. And actually very nicely leads into what are the 2 to 3 mechanisms that make our shared leadership work. I mean, we are very lucky, by the way. I think there are very few organizations where you have an all-female leadership of the automotive business in the electronic semiconductor industry. And by the way, I mean, there is only one other woman across the verticals and the business unit. So we're very lucky to have this partnership. But, maybe share some insights on how that works week to week.
I mean, besides all the fun that we have?
Of course.
Besides all the fun. So I think there's a few things that Shalini and I have done to establish a good partnership. And first and foremost, we align on the outcome. We don't necessarily align on the ownership of work. So what do I mean by that? We have very different perspectives. Shalini is deeply engaged with customers. She is deeply engaged with programs that are in motion. I am spending time looking at technology, innovation, what are the fundamental trends that are shaping the industry. So we have 2 different perspectives over the same strategy. And it's really when we can connect those perspectives that we find the magic. And that requires alignment up front so that we don't always have to be in the same room at the same time. So I think that's a key one. The second one is to be direct. There is no way that you can have shared leadership dynamics if you aren't willing to openly challenge ideas. That means creating a space of psychological safety, which requires discipline, and it means being willing to make decisions and put your ego to the side. Our goal is not consensus. Our goal is to get to the best decision fast. And I think the last one, Shalini and I have both spent time in the sales organization, and so we have a very common anchoring in the customer problem. That is number one. And so when you have a vision that is bigger than yourself and is bigger than the team, it really dissolves a lot of friction in how the team works and allows you to go across organizational boundaries. And I think that complexity is only showing up more, whether it's in our shared matched pair dynamic or whether it's any of you in your matrixed organization trying to be a change agent for something while trying to map out 25 different stakeholders across 4 different organizations. It's the same concept of shared leadership. What are some things that you think as tactics that work for us?
So I think the close continuous communication is essential, and I think Tracy mentioned it earlier, right? So EI, we are really good at that in terms of being able to be sensitive to what's happening, or leaning into each other's strengths, making sure we're supporting each other in areas where might not be our domain of expertise. So yeah, I think very much the things that you covered I would resonate.
Well, of course, whenever you have 2 leaders together and we talk about we have to get to the best decision fast, not consensus, there might be some times of disagreement, healthy disagreement. And frankly, healthy disagreement is a sign of good leadership teams. So I think it's a little truth-telling time, Shalini.
I mean, look, we are extremely competitive, both of us.
Yes. So when we disagree, Shalini, how do we resolve quickly without slowing the business, but making the best decision?
I think first of all, the first thing is what's the outcome we're looking to drive, right? So our business is very centered around our customers. So it's, being different in the way that we are means that we're trying to bring information, not just ours, but others, look at it from all angles. And then we will debate in terms of what's the best outcome here, look at it from different angles. And sometimes, by the way, we don't agree. We disagree, and then we respectfully do commit. I think what's important is to clarify upfront where the decision making is, and actually, if it's more on the technology side, it's Yasmine. If it's more on the business and the commercial, it will be me. So being clear about how the decisions are made, and then holding each other accountable for that, I think is essential. And that's not just us. I think in any situation, it's being clear about how decisions are made.
And I think as we do that, there's always going to be moments where there is pressure and there's urgency and there's deadlines and we're trying to move towards that. So Shalini, when you're engaging with customers and you're managing across into the business unit and there is this pressure, What do you see that our customers value the most when the program is under pressure?
So I would say at the top of that really is transparency and openness. When you're working at the edge of innovation, things will go wrong, right? There will be problems that arise. And it's really important that you're flagging a constraint and you're working together to try and solve that. Secondly, I'd say mutual accountability, right? So making sure that the stakeholders are held, and that's me, that's my customer, making sure that we're really being accountable, holding each other accountable. There's a shared ownership in getting to an outcome. Bringing issues early to the table, critical, right? So on any side. So encouraging, I think, again, this is this whole thing of courage, encouraging others to make sure that when there is a problem, that they're able to talk about that. And one of the things I think, and we talked about earlier, what are you known for? Delivering on commitments is really important, right? So that is an expectation, especially in this industry, that we're able to stand behind what we commit. Um, Strong partnerships require listening, really good listening, really good ability to adapt and act decisively. So, a lot of different things that I've put on there. But on that point, Yasmine, since partnership is becoming much more of a system requirement, what do you see as changing across the ecosystem to support that?
I think the way we view partnerships has to shift entirely. Especially in this software-defined era, partnerships can't sit at the edge of the business. It can't be something that you add on later. It really needs to be upstreamed into the architectures. If you're waiting to face system integration problems, then you've already lost speed. You've already lost time. And as we've been talking about, alignment is so critical. That's a key way of making, whether it's speed of development or speed of execution, move faster. And that alignment requires earlier discussions. You have to bring those conversations forward. So whether it is around system requirements, whether it's around the commercial model, as simple as what are the interfaces that we're using or who's accountable for this problem, that alignment needs to happen very early in the program. And I found that it's the companies that don't feel like they need to control everything, the companies that are willing to build architectures, build ecosystems, and genuinely create an environment where the team is focused on solving a problem and not necessarily taking a problem to a point where they can then hand it off across an organizational boundary. If you can instill that mindset in your team, it's amazing what the team can accomplish. And one of the benefits of sitting in semiconductors is we get to see this across multiple industry. And I'll tell you that it's not just in automotive. We see this pretty much everywhere else. So anytime that you have an intelligent machine, whether the intelligent machine is connected as a vehicle, whether it's a robot, whether it's a drone, the same principle holds. If you want a trusted outcome, you need to have a trusted ecosystem. And that is as much a business problem as it is a technology design problem. And it's getting more complex. So we need to approach partnership at the core as a fundamental capability of an organization, not as transactional that happens at the periphery. So I think, Shalini, we are getting to a point where let's talk a little bit about career and pivot a bit. I want to understand, I'm sure everyone in this room and you and I, there have been points in our career where you must have had a cliff moment, something that hit you and you thought, wow, this is really difficult. How do I approach this? So can you share a story like that with
How
everyone?
much time have we got? Okay, hold on a second. All right. Yes, I want to share. Actually, in my time in analog devices, I spent the first good few years working quite in my comfort zone, UK and Nordic region, running the sales organization there. Really good fun. And then I decided, right, push myself out of my comfort zone, go into new markets. So that's new territories, new end markets as well. And that was quite unfamiliar, right? New culture, new languages, um, actually even finding your way around the territory, working with people in different territories, which was really scary, exciting as well. But actually, the thing that I found is actually how much impact you can have. So I started to do that, right? So actually, it was really scary. And I'll tell you one story of which could have put me off for life. And it was one of the first meetings that I had actually in Germany. It was some years ago, and there was a senior meeting happening. Different industry actually. It was in the kind of industrial medical area. And I was flying in from London into Germany, and there was a meeting in the morning, and then there was a dinner in the evening. And I was told there were two people working on the account, and they'd said to me, "Oh, do you want to join? Do you want to join the meeting? Maybe you don't need to come." Well, I'm thinking, well, this is my business. I need to be there. And then actually said to me, "Well, okay, come to the meeting, but you don't need to come to the dinner." And I'm thinking, well, why not? It'll be just men. We're just men. And there were two of them in there, and actually one of them leant forward and he said, "That's exactly why she needs to be there." Right? You need to be in the room. You need to be in the room. And actually, I did go to the dinner and I did contribute. I did bring value. I brought a different perspective to that business. And actually, shortly after that, I went on to lead Automotive. And actually, probably a good few years ago, the only thing I knew about, I love cars, by the way, passionate about cars. But that was the only thing. I do love cars. I'm always looking at
Magazine in your
every
purse right
car.
now,
I know.
all about cars.
I've got a
I
magazine
saw
in my
that.
car holding my notes today. She saw it. Ford was on the front. So I loved cars, but I knew nothing about the industry. And I went on to lead a team of men, mostly in Central Europe. I had no experience. I was living in the UK, and I'm a female from Indian origins. But you know what? It was really interesting because the things that do translate, building great teams, connecting with people, creating energy and vision and passion around what you're trying to get done, bringing everyone together, which would have been at the initial state. Well, what is this person going to do? I was able to translate what I'd learned in other industries and up to that point, and really get that business back where it needed to be. I was asked to do that. So I think, that was probably one of the biggest glass cliffs, but also one of the biggest accelerators in my career. And there were probably three things that kind of made the difference. I think it was the confidence that people around me had in me before I had it. And I think the other thing is the second one would have been reframing the uncertainty, not as a risk, but as a signal for for the fact that I could grow. I could really do something new and develop my skills. And I think the third thing is I made a conscious decision that I was going to enjoy it. I was going to stay curious, open, and actually have fun along the way. Right? Those things are so important, and they reflect on others. They're infectious. So I think having fun, making progress, taking people, those are the things that really gave me the energy and the courage to take the different roles and now global automotive. So yeah, I think that was definitely my glass cliff moment.
What stood out to me though is there was a moment, and I'm sure we've all had this, where you must have had some self-doubt come in, right? That moment where they say, "Oh, you don't need to be there," or "You don't need to do this." It does take, in that moment, having something that you can grab onto, and you push their thoughts away, and you're bold, you're courageous, and you say, "No, I want to do this. I can do this, and I'm going to do it." So everyone in this room is going to face that moment. I'm sure we've all faced it 100 times already. So I would encourage you that as you continue to face those moments, think back to something that you can grab onto like an anchor in a storm, and grab onto it fiercely and know that you can say yes. In fact, if there are opportunities, one piece of advice I'd give to everybody here is just grab it. Even if you think, I don't have all the answers, I don't know exactly how to do all of what they're asking me to do, you'll figure it out. You will find people who know the answers, you can work with them, you'll learn, you'll adapt. So take that moment and don't let the doubt creep in. Put it up like a wall, right? If anyone here is races, you got to go into your box. You have to go into your mental box where you don't let what's happening outside affect your mental state. You know who you are, you know what you can do, and you're going to drive for it no matter what. Well, thank you so much, everyone, today. It's been lovely to have this time with all of you. Shalini, any final thoughts before we
Yes.
close out?
So what I'd like to leave you is none of us succeed alone, right? The complexity that we're dealing with in this industry is massive. So leaning on each other, really making sure that we use the power, right, of each other to move forward. Today, I know there was a US stat, but actually today, only 15% of automotive leadership is women around the world. That's a huge place for improvement, right? And this industry is getting completely redefined. It's not just a diversity gap, it's an innovation gap. So we need everyone in here to lift each other up and bring everyone on the journey. Yasmine, what about you?
I'll just share what I put as my word for Cheryl earlier, and it was connected. So please, I look forward to meeting as many of you as I can today. I look forward to networking. I look forward to getting to know all of you. And as something I learned this morning in a workshop, I look forward to connecting with you after today, because then I know that it's real. Thank you, everyone.